protecting our liberty.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Your Right to Know, brought to you by the Fitchburg Republican City Committee. Tonight I will be your host. My name is Atty Andrew Couture, and we have a very special guest here tonight, candidate for Massachusetts Attorney General McMahon. How are you doing today?
Good, excellent, Andrew.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And as we were talking about before the show, we're two attorneys here. We could talk about everything and nothing all at the same time and have a good time doing it.
And entertain the listeners.
And so, Jay, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself? Well,
I am an attorney. I live in Bourne, which is on Cape Cod. Been an attorney for 30 years. Married to my wife Shelley for 25 years. I'm now the father of 4 children. And I've lived pretty much in the Cape Cod area. I've lived in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts all my life. Prior to being an attorney, I was 6 years in law enforcement, and I was also 6 years in the Massachusetts Army National Guard as a second lieutenant in the military police. So I've been around, and right now I'm a lawyer, and I got a general law practice. I have 5 employees, and I've been doing that, like I said, for 30 years, and I've got, actually even now, I have cases in every level of court, from the Supreme Judicial Court all the way to the District Court, Superior Court, Probate Court, criminal and civil cases. And over the 30 years, I have put notices of appearance in thousands of cases. I've been before federal boards, state boards, local boards, and agencies. And I've got a pretty good handle on Massachusetts jurisprudence.
Wow, that's very impressive. But let's begin with, why do you want to be the next Attorney General for the Commonwealth?
Andrew, we could do so much better than what this left-wing political activist Maura Healey is doing. We can do something right for a change for the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. When I look at the position of Attorney General, it is the highest elected law enforcement official in the state. Here, she is supposed to be concerned for our public safety, but she's not, Andrew. She's not. She will put aside our public safety and our civil rights for political expediency. Completely unacceptable. While she is suing Trump 30 times, she hasn't filed one public corruption complaint or indictment. So we could do so much better.
You know, it's funny that you should bring that up, because, you know, doing some research for the show, I found an article from the New Boston Post dated December 28th, 2017, and it states that she has brought lawsuits in every state.
I know.
Against Trump.
I know.
How does she do that?
Because she's crazy. She is using all our resources. You know, Andrew, you mentioned something about us being lawyers and talking, but I got to say this. I know you have done this as well, because I know a little bit about your background, that you've been involved in big lawsuits. Now, you know what it's like. She sends in a dozen or so lawyers to present the case against the Trump administration. So the Trump administration has to send in a dozen or so lawyers to oppose it. So now you got a federal district court judge who's the debate master, and what do? They sit around discussing what the meaning of the word is. And it's utter nonsense. No one wins those cases. In fact, they wind up either being dismissed or dissolved, and because there's no winners, there is a loser. It's the taxpayers of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, because you're paying for all this. You're paying for both sets of lawyers for nothing to happen. It's unbelievable.
So, but I thought we got the definition of is through the Clinton administration.
The Clinton administration. No question about it.
Now,
Yep.
If Democrat Attorney General Maura Healey has distinguished herself at all, again, it's to bring legal action against the Trump administration. time and time and time again. Not only do you believe she's vulnerable, but you have a three-pronged plan to really address the issues that are negatively impacting the residents of Massachusetts?
Absolutely. You're talking, when you mention about the three-prong approach, I believe you're talking about the opiate crisis?
Yes.
The opiate crisis. There is not a family in the Commonwealth that has not been touched by the opiate crisis. My family's been touched. I lost my oldest son to the opiate crisis. He was in the United States Army. He wanted to make the Army his career. He was in Iraqi freedom in 2003. He was one of the first troops to enter Baghdad. And while he was on a mission under enemy fire, he ruined his back. And so they told him he was no longer fit for service, so they discharged him to the VA. And the way the VA handled the problem, they said, here you go, kid, here's a 30-day supply of OxyContin. We'll see you back in 30 days. And then they realized, after several years, that they were making tens of thousands of disabled American vets, turning them into opiate addicts. My son was the result of that. But I'll tell you, there is a three-pronged approach to resolving and tackling the opiate crisis here in Massachusetts. You want me to go into that?
Please do.
Okay. First of all, you need effective rehabilitation. Right now, if you are sentenced, say, under a drug possession charge, and part of your probation is you have to go through a opiate rehabilitation program because you're an opiate addict. You enter that program, almost all of them are 90 days. The opiate rehabilitation programs now in Massachusetts have a 99% failure rate. Now, to me, that is, first of all, that's a disgrace. Here we are, Massachusetts. We're the medical capital of the world. People fly in from all over the planet to get resolved here, to have their medical issues resolved, to get healed, or whatever else has to be done to them. They come here. Here's the dirty little secret. We do know how to cure opiate addiction. It takes longer in the plan, but we can do it. They have to extend the plan out. Here's how it was explained to me by the physicians who are helping me, the board-certified opiate physicians who are helping me as to rehabilitation. They say that the problem now is we let people out of the program in 90 days. Their cravings are raging at that point. That's why you read so many times in the newspaper or see on the news people who had been discharged from the program on Saturday, and on Sunday they're found dead of an overdose because they can't take that strong hit that they took before they went into the program. And yet their bodies are craving for the opiates. That's because it takes longer for the brain to heal. The model that they're using is the same model they use for alcoholics. It works for them, but it doesn't work for an opiate addict. It takes longer for the brain to heal. So what we know in Massachusetts, that is, the people who deal with this know, that if you extend the program another 30 days, the cravings begin to diminish. You extended another 30 days beyond that, they diminish exponentially. And if you do it another 30 days, meaning 180 days, twice as long as the programs right now, you can effectively cure an opiate addict. Not putting them on some other substance like Vivitrol, Suboxone, or methadone. You can actually heal the opiate addict and give him his life back. And so I asked these board-certified physicians, opiate rehabilitative physicians, I asked them, tell me, why aren't we doing it now? Why are we tolerating these failed programs, and we've been tolerating them for decades? They tell me there's money to be made in failed opiate rehabilitation. I think that's nuts. I think we've got to do something about it, and that's going to be one of the things, when I become the Attorney General, I'm going to investigate. Because by investigating it, I can force change. And I intend to force change. And I intend to be, if I don't run point on it, I will certainly use the pulpit of the AG's office as a bully pulpit and start pointing these failures out in the government administration. I'm not pointing the finger at anybody here except to say, since Maura Healey has been with the Attorney General's office, the deaths by opiate addiction have quadrupled, and that is unacceptable in Massachusetts.
Well, I mean, that's getting to my next question. You know, me, as well as you, I'm an attorney, and I always have my ears to the grindstone as to the legal efforts of the Attorney General. In this case, I can't help but question what Maura Healey has done in her 3+ years in office to help the citizens of Massachusetts. My guess is most of her viewers. That to most of our viewers, they'll feel like I do, and that she's done little to nothing to help the hardworking taxpayers of the Commonwealth, but instead has opted to spend most of her time and money fighting against the Trump administration and, in her mind, big business, and also as a political stepping stool. What do you think about that?
Well, let me say this. We have 30 lawsuits that she has filed against the Trump administration. From my estimate, I've read them. From my estimation, they're meritless. In other words, they're going to die the death that they're supposed to die. There's no merit to them. Let's talk about the first one, and the others all follow suit. The first time she sued the Trump administration was January of 2017. President Trump gets inaugurated. The first thing he does is issue an executive order. And in that order, he instituted a temporary travel ban for 6 Middle Eastern states. And he did that because he wanted to implement extreme vetting. Now, people ask me all the time, what's extreme vetting? The best example I can give is if you apply for a license to carry firearms in Massachusetts, you will go through extreme vetting. They're going to want to know your whole background, they're going to want to know your criminal record, they're going to want to know your psychiatric profile. They want to know everything before they issue a license to carry firearms to you. That is extreme vetting. President Trump, and the reason he wanted to institute extreme vetting is because he had intelligence information from the Obama administration. That's sort of an oxymoron. But he had intelligence information from the Obama administration that told him that there was elements of ISIS and Al-Qaeda infiltrating the refugees coming from those 6 Muslim states. And they're trying to get into the country here. They're not coming in here to mix it up with us. They're coming in here to kill us. And so President Trump, assuming the duty of his office, trying to keep us safe, our public safety being number one, he wanted to institute that. Maura Healey, the day afterwards, went into the federal district court and tried to get an injunction against President Trump. Now, you got to ask yourself, who is she representing, and why is she doing this? Whose side is she on? She actually went in under the presumption that, or by saying, the claim that the president is interfering and violating the civil rights of those foreign nationals from those 6 Middle Eastern states. Can you imagine that? Well, she said they had a civil right to be here.
But that, again, I mean, there was a few lawsuits against this, and the Supreme Court overturned it. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely they did. Absolutely they did. But her position was absurd. It was against our public interest, because take it to its natural conclusion. She would have had an injunction against the president, let those elements of ISIS and Al-Qaeda come in here, unvetted, and put us at the mercy. And with her gun grab, she would disarm us at the same time. It is the liberal left nuttiness that I am running against.
Well, this also gets into another question that I have for you, and that is support of the continuation of sanctuary cities. Even going as far to see Massachusetts becoming a sanctuary state. Why do you believe that Massachusetts should not support sanctuary cities? And do such amnesties, havens, take away from the taxpaying citizens of the state?
Let me tell you what it does to the taxpayer, and I can give this to you firsthand. What Maura Healey is doing right now, she is actually operating her office as if Massachusetts already is a sanctuary state. Now, think of what that term means, a sanctuary state, and as to Maura Healey being the highest elected law enforcement official in the state. What she is doing is she is shielding a segment of the population against the federal government. Now, how does that affect us? It affects us in our public safety. First of all, she is protecting a segment of the population from federal law enforcement officials. That's number one. But number two, by failing to communicate and cooperate with the feds, she is hurting us in the opiate crisis. Here's my proof for that. The feds know how heroin and fentanyl are coming into Massachusetts and New England. See, they don't manufacture that stuff here. It has to come in from outside. China is the biggest exporter of fentanyl through Mexico. Afghanistan is the biggest exporter of heroin, again, through Mexico. That's why the president wants to build the wall. It's not only to control illegal immigration, but also to control the illegal drugs flooding into the country. And Maura Healey, even though the feds know where it's coming from, the Border Patrol, Customs, DEA, the ICE, even the FBI, she won't deal with them, meaning she would leave us vulnerable. And every federal taxpayer in Massachusetts should be insulted by that, because we're paying for those federal assets, and yet she refuses to cooperate with them because she wants to be a sanctuary state. That hurts us all over the state by doing that. There's a way to deal with the sanctuary cities, but as to being a sanctuary state, that is intolerable. We just can't do it.
I don't. Maybe some of our viewers, they just don't maybe understand. I mean, there's currently 7 sanctuary cities in Massachusetts:
right.
Amherst, Boston, Cambridge, Lawrence, Northampton, Somerville. I mean, I spent some time in some of these, practicing in some of these areas, and the illegal immigrants are like falling from trees. There's just so many of them. Everybody that you run into, everybody that came into one of my offices, they were not here legally. I mean, I don't think the viewers or the people understand exactly how out of control this is.
They don't, and here's the problem. A sanctuary city, much like San Francisco, becomes a magnet. It's an advertisement to say, come into this city, come in here, absorb and use up all their resources, because they're going to shield you from the federal government. Now, in reality, the cities are protecting those segments, but there's only so much the city can do. I mean, the feds can still come in and do it. No one is standing with a gun against the federal authorities, but they're not cooperating with them, and that has to be an intolerable situation.
Now, getting to the next subject, Republican U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions and U.S. Attorney for MASS, Andrew Couture, has discussed the state's new legalized marijuana program. Although the voters in Mass supported legalizing marijuana, both Sessions and Couture have noted that marijuana is still considered an illegal substance in Massachusetts. How does the Attorney General square in this circle?
Well, I'll tell you what. There are many other federal laws that prohibit things or require things that state law doesn't. The Massachusetts Attorney General certainly cannot turn into the position of being a defense attorney and protecting certain people who are violating federal law. So, when Maura Healey allowed that ballot initiative question to go on the ballot, basically she should have put a warning in there, if allowed it at all, saying that a vote on this may legalize marijuana under state law, but does not legalize it under federal law. To be honest, our state, Massachusetts, as well as some other states, for instance, Colorado, Nevada, and Oregon, they have allowed their citizens to be of the mindset that it's legal to do this when, in essence, they're encouraging to violate federal law. Now, I don't know how, I know Sessions says he's going to do something about it. I don't know exactly what he plans to do about it. I don't know if they're going to wait till these stores open up and then raid them wholesale. I don't know what they plan to do. I know there was a real problem with money. It has to be cash business because they can't put it through, they can't put their money through banks. Cash business, that, to me, leaves it wide open to illegal activities.
Yeah. Now, getting something that's near and dear to my heart, and it's the focus of my own practice, the Second Amendment.
Yes.
Now, many remember July of 2016, Attorney General Maura Healey unilaterally decided no more AR-type rifles in Massachusetts. Now, things are pretty passionate recently. We just were about a week out from the tragedy that happened in Florida. And it seems like there's a lot of call for banning these style of rifles, but obviously this is our Second Amendment right.
It is a right.
Exactly. It's not indicated as a need or a want. It's a right. And the Constitution recognizes the right as pre-existing to the Constitution. It's one of those that they talk about in the Declaration of Independence as an unalienable right that's granted to us from our Creator. Now, a lot of people are saying that what Maura Healey did was unconstitutional, just outright banning these style of rifles. What is your take on that?
Well, you know, absolutely right. And she would say that that AR means assault rifle, but it doesn't.
No, that's how you know she's truly ignorant on the subject.
Exactly right. First of all, she says she issued this enforcement order because she wants to get guns off the street. Her order did absolutely nothing to get guns off the street. Basically, the guns that are on the street are illegal guns. Now, somebody says, well, a gun can't be legal or illegal. They were obtained by illegal means. To me, that makes them illegal. Mm-hmm. And it also, to me, it makes it subject to confiscation. If you have it and you don't have a license to carry, not only is the gun illegal, but you're illegal as well. Mm-hmm. Massachusetts, you need a license to carry. Supreme Court has ruled that licenses to carry, if reasonable, are permitted. They're permitted to examine people to see whether they're suitable. Now, suitability, all of us can argue what suitability is.
It's a very objective standard.
It is an objective standard, and to me, any government official who wants to infringe on someone's Second Amendment right better have some very strong and compelling reasons, and not just reasons that, well, I just don't feel you're the right one, which some of the police chiefs are doing now, because they're the licensing authority.
Trust me, I deal with that constantly in my practice, where a good, honest guy, you know, he's going in, he wants to get his license to carry, or at least even his FID card, and the chief of police has carte blanche, you know, authority to say, you know what, no. You know, you're not going to get it. Why? It's my right. I should be able to get it. I don't want you to have it.
I know.
You know, that is, in essence, you know, violating your civil rights. I view the Second Amendment as a civil right.
It is a civil right, and I'm going to tell you, Andrew, when she listed these rifles and handguns on her list, no state representative voted on that, no state senator voted on it, and the governor never saw it coming. She just issued an edict, as if she issued this as a fiat, put her name to it, and said, you're subject to a 10-year felony. The people who purchased those guns, those rifles and handguns, did so legally in Massachusetts through the portal, the gun portal. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you this, when I am elected Attorney General, on day one, and I'm going to make a huge big deal about it, on day one, I will revoke and rescind that executive order, that enforcement order that she issued on July 2016, and give the citizens of Massachusetts their gun rights back. Because I trust the citizens of Massachusetts.
Now, what she did in regards to this, we had somewhat of a regulation. It wasn't an outright ban. It was regulations on these type of firearms. But she basically just flipped the law around and said, that's it. This is the way I view it, and this is the way it's going to be run. Is that accurate?
Not only did she do that, but she has no understanding of these rifles and handguns. Look, it is so simple. I explained to gun groups. A lot of gun groups will come up to me and say, Mr. McMahon, you've been a lawyer for 30 years. Can you explain the gun laws? The answer is, I say to them, is your head spinning when you try to read them? And they go, yeah. And I said, mine too. Yeah. They're almost unexplainable because they conflict. You can almost tell from different events that occurred in history that somebody ran in and just decided to throw some law together and try to make something stick.
Part of my practice is I do gun law classes to try to clear up some of this ambiguity, because when you look at the gun laws of Massachusetts, it's completely ambiguous. Yep. Nobody knows what the heck is going on. I've sorted through it, trying to get the basic facts, how to keep somebody from getting in trouble. And you know, it's been a huge success. And there's a lot of people that said, I didn't know that's what the law said. Well, this is what it says. Here's the black letter law. It's
crazy. It doesn't. It's a lot of it doesn't make sense. And you know what I do? So when I give seminars, I tell the people, let's just boil it down. There's three components to every rifle and firearms. There's the tube, which is a barrel. If it's 16 inches or more, it's a rifle. If it's under 16, it's a pistol. They all have a firing mechanism, and they have a projectile that goes out of it. Now people say, well, the Constitution was written in the 1700s. Hey, that's how those firearms were working, and that's how they're working now. Well, everything else around it is just an accessory. It doesn't make the bullet any bigger, faster, or more powerful.
Well, if you want to go with that logic, I mean, a lot of anti-Second Amendment people say that, you know, if you're only, under the Second Amendment, you're only entitled to a musket. Well, if that's the case, then your First Amendment right stops at the original printing press. You know, that's
exactly.
In essence, that's what they're saying to us.
They are. But you know, that's liberal, loony left mentality, and that's what we got in the AG's office right now.
Well, unfortunately, I have a lot more questions that I'd like to be able to provide to our viewers for you.
I've got a ton of answers for you, too.
But unfortunately, it looks like we are about to run out of time. Jay, thank you so much for coming on the program. It's been a pleasure to have you on. You know, you have my support and you know, my backing in regards to your run for Attorney General. I hope you can definitely clear up the ambiguity in the laws and try to get some control over the craziness that is the Attorney General's office.
I'll tell you right now, the people of Massachusetts will be proud of me when they see the job that I'm going to do.
I sure hope though. I sure hope so.
I'll tell you what, though, if your viewers want to know more about me, they can look me up on my website. It's www.attorney, spell the word out, attorney, J-A-Y, McMahon, MCMAHON.com, and I'm also on Facebook and Twitter.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for coming on the show. And we thank you for watching Your Right to Know and sitting with the FRCC. As we leave you, we want you to remember that your local, city, town Republican committee is the only grassroots organization that supports and holds dear your liberty, your constitutional rights, and conservative values. We encourage you to join us. Why? Because to us, GOP stands for growth, opportunity, prosperity, and because we always stand for freedom. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
America, we stand for freedom. So let us all unite to yearn and strive for our republic that reflects our values, that our rights and goes forth in power and might that reflects our values and preserves our rights and goes forth in power